Okay, let me share with you. Too small, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, is it better?
Maybe one more.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right. So it's better now, right? Move this one. Okay, so last week we talked about the 4 types of jhana, or 4 type of 4 stages of meditative state of mind. Let me share with you this one. Here. Okay. Sorry. I think it's better to see here. So can you see here? The first one is a state of mind of consciousness. The first one is the first jhana, the first meditative state of mind. Clarity, ability to examine and detach oneself from the worldly desire. That's the first one. That means you don't have any more attachment for anything of worldly one. And second one is the happiness, choice as the mind is calm. So when the mind calm, there's the happiness, there's joy there. Yeah. And Stephen, you follow on, Stephen?
Yes, mô Phật hay điều thầy.
The third one, joy, equanimity, evenness of mind, composed as the rapture of one's early joy fade. So the mind enjoy that joyfulness, that equanimity. And the last one is equanimity, clear, calm, peaceful, a state of pure happiness. But here, if someone attend to this state of mind, they have not attained to the arhatship yet, but their mind calm and pure. That's all. So in Buddhist view, you need to purify all the mental affliction like anger and so forth. It's like the water bottle. At first, all the mud settle down, and we see the clear water. That's all. But our job is to purify, to filter out all the particles on the bottom there.
Yeah.
So that we can have the pure water. And so that's just in general, there's the 4 stages of meditation. But most of us, it's not easy to get up to the first one. Yeah. So when we really calm our mind, we will not attach much to things, worldly things. And when we really enter the first one, we will not recognize the pulse of awareness.
Because they're so calm.
To calm. Yeah. You follow and Stephen?
Yes, I do thầy.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go back then. Yeah, please, Miss Houston.
In Mahayana, trance is usually termed samadhi. Often the trance has a name and may appear in the title of a sutra as the ultimate aim of the Buddhist sermon. Samadhi Raja Sutra, for example, many include supernatural visions such as pure color samadhi or the samadhi of direct encounter with the Buddhas of the present. As with the 4 dhyanas, their descriptions generally include negative mental qualities that have been dropped and positive qualities that have been acquired. But but it is the visionary aspect that the salvational message is now located. That is in Mahayana, where the sense of a religious path is usually more detailed. One looks more from the trance experiences of extrasensory perception as confirmation of having reached a particular stage in one's progress to imagination. So samadhi is that real deep meditative state. And then of course you hear all kinds of glorious descriptions of what these meditation states should be like, but of course at some point that should be let go of. That should be let go of too. And so you clarified anger, hatred, greed, delusion, you clear that out when you meditate, and then the positive qualities are compassion. Let's see, remember compassion, equanimity. Oh no, I don't remember. Compassion, equanimity,
Forgiveness.
forgiveness. Oh, and loving kindness. Yeah. So you cultivate those in your practice, and then you settle down or even uproot the causes of anger, and so in Mahayana there so in like Theravada, a lot of it of the meditation practice is insight practice, which is watching things come and go, just really whatever it is, come and go. In shamatha, it's this very single pointed concentration, and the experience is from being able to hold that concentration for so long that there's this level of absorption that of course has these kind of like descriptions of it. So for a lot of people, including myself, what's you like for me, after I really got into a deep and very serious meditation practice, yeah, my other senses are very heightened. Like I know when certain people are going to call me. I definitely know what there are certain other people. I know what they're thinking. That there is this awareness of other types of energies because you've settled down all this other stuff to kind of be open to more input. But of course, people that are really practicing evolved have, of course, much clearer visions and abilities. But I don't really, I don't think, personally, I don't think they're just supernatural or anything like that. It's just, I think, for people that meditate long enough, that everybody has those. It's just you're not quiet enough, or you don't know your mind enough to understand the disturbances or the perception that comes in that may be different from what you're used to.
Like you say that when our mind is so calm, we can see that type of clarity. So it's like this pure water can see through the other side. The dirty water we cannot see through.
Yeah.
So some kind of psychic power is like the byproduct of our pure mind.
Yeah.
That's all. It will come naturally. We cannot seek. The more we seek, the harder for us to get.
Yeah, no, it's something that, of course, when it happened, when I really started noticing like a difference in my perception, I didn't realize, I guess, when I first took on an intense meditation practice, like how much stronger my extrasensory perception would get. Like I kind of thought it was like not really so true when other people talked about it until it was something that kind of just happened.
Mhm. Yeah, it's come naturally.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. All right, go on. Sorry, it's just yeah. And Stephen, could you read it? Can you read this? Yeah.
Yes, sir. A central part of all Buddhist systems of practice is the cultivation of what is called mindfulness. This word translates various practices that come under the headings of samadhi, smarti, manasikara, or manasikarati, anupassayana, and so on. They all refer to mental application in the sense of attentiveness to the particular object of concentration, denoting precisely where the mind is directed, or what is paying attention to at any given moment. Since the Buddhist view of consciousness presumes a rapid series of discrete thoughts, the exercise of maintaining an object in one's mind over a period of time, from a few minutes to a few hours, requires constant concentration to keep one's senses directed at that object, whether it lie outside the self or inside in the case of mindfulness or something conjured up from the past.
So you follow?
That one, in a sense, I believe is explaining how part of where on meditation is you just basically concentrating on a particular, just like they said, an object for a prolonged amount of time and try to not let your mind wander away from that. So that is the only way that you can succeed in meditation. So, which is very difficult.
Yeah, unless you practice, you could recognize. So yeah, this is require the constant concentration, right? From a few minutes to a few hours. So to keep one sense direct at the object. Yeah, for example, if you focus your mind on the breath from a few minutes to a few hours, that's the strength of concentration. But when you stand up and you walk around and you be mindful, that's what we call mindfulness, and what we call vipassana. Yeah, sorry, I scanned. Yeah, please, Anna.
Buddhist theory of causality, in which volition is conditioned by spiritual ignorance and consciousness in turn conditioned by this volition, and so on, is wrongly understood by many people to mean that there's no possibility of free will in Buddhism. However, the importance that Buddhism places on the practice of mindfulness should dispel this misunderstanding. It is a subtle point, perhaps, but an important one. Although the way in which one processes information may be affected by previous thoughts, decisions, and opinions, there's still a decision at every moment of consciousness regarding what the mind will be concerned with or focused on. One purpose of mindfulness practice, therefore, is gradually to free oneself from habitual ways of responding to the world and to the self. Without progress in mindfulness, then, one cannot proceed to the more difficult meditations characterized by trance and wisdom.
You follow?
I recognize myself in that. I'm in the beginning where it's with yourself, the need to control, and then releasing the need to control to be able to control. Or talking to myself about talking to myself. Yeah. Who are you talking to? Myself. Why are you talking?
Sometimes, let's say we have mental habitual pattern. For example, let's say when we wake up in the morning, drink coffee, or we have a piece donut, or have a tea. So those are the habitual pattern that we have every day. Or even we have the mental habitual pattern about let's say, reading the books at night before you go to sleep, or even check email early in the morning, and so forth. But in this sense, we can change those, whether physical or mental habitual patterns, if we want to, or if we want to break that type of habitual patterns. We can, okay, this morning I don't need to drink tea, I don't need to have that type of donut, or I don't need to check my email in the morning, I can check later on. So if we have a kind of concentration, we can control our mind. Otherwise, usually we can follow the pattern. The same
Well, that's
pattern.
why I was been explaining, like, for beginners, that the noting process, like, the thing, what is it that's pulling you away from meditation? Mental loop? Because that's a lot of times it's just a mental loop, or like I said, restlessness, or body, just some sort of body sensation or hearing. So if you can just, in the beginning, just understand what your brain is, or what your mind is trying to distract you with, rather than the story of this, well, there's this weird sound outside that sounds like a cat screaming, rather than just saying sound. So your brain's trying to direct you to hearing, or your brain's, and then it makes it easier to break that, to see that it's just a pattern planning. That's a pattern my brain is, and it's easier to break down into concentration, let go. Or at least that was very factors. That was very helpful for me, learning and noting practice in the beginning, when I would really struggle with letting go of ideas, sitting too long, wanting to get up, moving around because I was uncomfortable. So like kind of step by step, and then of course now I don't really even have to go there, because I just see, oh, my mind is trying to do that, and then I can let go. But in the beginning, I found that it was very, very much easier to let go. Noting practice.
But again, without meditation, not easy to get.
It's not easy. No, it's a lot. It's practice.
We get stuck.
Practice.
We're stuck to layers and layers of attachment.
Yeah.
Because we build up our habitual pattern through repetition, and it's not easy to get out of that kind of pattern. It's simple. It's more like drinking a coffee in the morning, or a tea. Not talking about having addiction with alcohol and so forth. So when we get into that type of addiction, it require a lot of disciplination to get out.
I'm trying to not eat at night anymore, because I have a thing where I get just stupid hungry at night, like late at night, right before I want to sleep. And for a number of reasons, I shouldn't be doing that. And I've struggled with it for a while, but my new thing is this, and the way I'm interrupting that habit is and I just say to myself, I'm changing this paradigm. It's like I'm changing this habit, that I realize that hunger and all that is just a habit, and it's my habit that's telling me I'm ridiculously hungry and I won't sleep, and rather so that I can also say, nope, we are changing the conditions around that, and don't believe the things that your mind tells you, which is really hard when it involves things like being hungry. But ultimately that is also just a mental fluctuate, or at least, with the way I eat. It's a mental fluctuation, not that I'm starving.
How about you, Stephen? What do you think? It's easy to break the habit, whether it's mental?
It's especially the deep-rooted habits, I believe, is very hard to break. And from a personal standpoint, there's a few people I know that is, I know upfront that is very hard for them to break the old way of thinking and stuff like that. But yeah, this is actually very, very difficult. And for me, myself, I'm kind of surprised at myself as to how I'm able to. I'm not, the one thing I need to learn more about is just all the meditation stuff. But what I was able to learn is how to control my own feeling and action instead of, for example, what we're talking about, how Kirsten was talking about hungriness. A quick example would be like we eat a lot of rice, and rice has a lot of carbohydrates, which is both good and bad when you have abundance of it. And then all of a sudden, I started to pretty much train myself during lunchtime to eat less rice. And we're vegetarians, so we're going to eat more vegetable or more tofu to get most of the protein. And I literally cut the amount of rice that I usually eat for lunch by half. And then so far, I don't feel that I get hungry easily as I did in the past. Somehow I'm used to it. So just by cutting down by half, I'm still just as full. So I'm basically directing and training my mind in that format, that mindset. Because when you keep on eating, if you don't do that, you didn't think that, you ate 1 cup is truly enough while you keep on eating double. And that's why, you eat more and more and more. But here, just by training your mind and, knowing when is enough, it eventually will be enough. So, somehow I was able to just eat less rice to tone down on the carbohydrates, especially when exercising is so difficult for me to push myself to do it. So I have to find other ways, to be more healthy. So most
That's
of it.
right. Thank you. That's why it's pretty hard to break the pattern without meditation. Not easy because the thing we need to change is we change our mind, our view.
Well, you also, or for me, it's also seeing the patterns of the habits of mind. Seeing that, oh, this is a habit of mind, not a reality. and really being able to get a different perspective of what is my mind doing, or even things like sugar. Like I know sugar, our brains just super turn on, and then it tells us to go back for more. We were wired like that from a long time ago. There's an evolutionary reason your brain tells you more sugar, even though it's the worst thing for you. So, but if you're mindful and understand how your brain works, you can say, oh, I don't really want sugar. It's not good for me, but my brain, my mind is telling me to get more. I do not have to let my mind make these decisions for me.
Developing a habit to perceive yourself, to perceive every action, every thought, every reaction, every, and now I'm getting nosy with my friends too, to try to explain it to them.
Well, and your level, or for me, my taking on it, and of course I have a pretty serious meditation practice, but the depth of my reality got so much deeper, and not in like an ADHD kind of way, but that there's just so much more space in content to other than, like, I think, before in my life, so much was just controlled by impulse and pattern, that now, like, I see all of those come and go. And of course I get hooked by a lot of patterns, but I also can see, like, oh, I'm doing this because I am hooked in a pattern. Do I want this pattern in my life? Yes or no?
That's the key. That's the key. That if we want to be free, don't get stuck or get hooked with the pattern.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy when we build up with the pattern. We could go back to that pattern repeatedly.
And the more you practice unhooking from patterns, that's why I think, you see some people that are just so super highly disciplined. I don't think most of them were born like that or whatever, but they just started disciplining one thing at a time, and once you learn to discipline a few things, all those other disciplines become so much easier because it's about breaking patterns and establishing new ones.
Yeah, it's
Classic early treatise from the 5th century CE, Buddhaghosa, the Sutta Manga, Path of Purity, devotes hundreds of pages to various forms of mindfulness meditation. The two most basic categories of mindfulness are called calming, shamatha, and insight, vipassana. And both are categorized as samadhi practice. Calming practice is the first stage of any form of meditation. The mind is usually
busy.
Busy activity of jumping from one idea to another, but it must be brought to a halt. This can be extremely difficult and is often pursued with simple objectives, such as fixing the mind on bodily movements, or as in Zen school, on particular work activity, such as hoeing the ground. Concentration on one's breathing while seated in a meditative position may be the most widely practiced form of mindfulness. In the Zen tradition, this usually takes the form of counting breaths, where the number is slowly brought to mind upon each exhalation. When 10 is reached, the meditator abandons the count and returns to 0. Lest his attention wanders to the meaning of the count. In the Theravada tradition, there are 16 ways in which breathing and mindfulness can be practiced, including focusing on the length of the inhalation and exhalation, taking the breath to different places of the body, and so on. So in shamatha, or mind calming, that's just that very single point of concentration, where a lot of the Theravada practices, it's still a lot of them are still single points, but a lot of them are also contemplation exercises, or they're very attached to the body. So you're thinking about your stomach going up and down, or you're thinking about, not thinking, but you're concentrating on the way your breath feels on your nose.
That's the first way I learned. This was to think of the edge of your.
It makes me itch.
Yeah.
It always makes my face itch.
Really?
I might do that one.
Yeah, so you just let them go in and out naturally. Yeah, they say it's count from in, out, count 1, in, out, count 2, up to 10, and some people they count backwardly, or they count, they set that count back again, 1, 10, and 1, 10, 1, and they keep the counting on the breath. It's like we anchor the mind. It's like we anchor the boat in the ocean, on the river. We put the anchor down, whichever direction that the winds blow, the ship or the boat still around that anchor. So there's the mind. So if we anchor our mind with the breath, no matter what kind of thought flying around mind, eventually we focus here.
Yeah, I mean, I've found before when I had instructions of just follow the rise and fall of the stomach, or some other, I've been trained in a number of techniques. That's, yeah, some are a lot easier to forget what you're doing. I have found with the counting that it's just, if I've done it for so many years now, that it's easier for me to just notice that I'm not concentrated on my breath. I'm like, oh wait, that's 13, or oh wait, I'm not counting. It makes it easier to recognize than if I'm just feeling my stomach, or contemplation exercises.
Yeah, so that's the first when we first step, when we focus on the breath, and if we really focus on the counting, eventually we would focus the mind on the feeling, how we feel, good feeling back in our body, and eventually can see and recognize all thoughts pop up in our mind. It takes a lot of times. Even count the breath sometimes up to 5 or 10 minutes, our mind go everywhere. So that's why
For me, the shorter meditations,
it's better.
well, for me, they're harder to stick
really?
for only like 10 or 15 minutes, because like I only feel like I just get started. That, you know, for me, 45 minutes is probably the best, because that's enough for my mind to calm down, but not so long. Sometimes I get in some arguments with my body at 45 minutes, but like I feel like at 45 minutes I can really have a solid run. That with those shorter ones, I feel like, oh, I just got here. Now I'm.
So I'm still you could see, right? You could recognize that, right? You do practice.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, please, next one, please.
After attaining a degree of stability in calming mindfulness, one then moves to insight meditation. For this is the basis of wisdom and is imperative for attaining more advanced states of spirituality. The relationship between calming and insight meditation somewhat resembles the philosopher Hegel's distinction between understanding and reason. The former is essential for creating the proper perspective, but the latter is the means by which one utilizes the composure gained to grasp the higher principles of truth. The three principles into which one seeks to gain insight are impermanence in all phenomena, the lack of substantiality in all knowable things, and persuasiveness of dukkha, suffering or unsatisfactoriness in human experiences. Universal principles such as these derive their significance in Buddhism not from what they tell us about the laws operating in the natural world, but because they lead to penetrating insights into the construction and maintenance of one's personal identity or notion of self. To paraphrase an earlier sutra, the effort to change one's external world is the way of a worldly man. The effort to change one's internal world is the way of bodhisattva.
That's understandable one, Stephen.
In the general sense, I do understand a little bit, but just the detail, I might need a little bit more explanation.
Okay. So first of all, it's talk about concentration, samatha. It's like we set it out that cup of water so that all the particle will be set down the bottom, and on top we have the clear water. And the inside, that's mean we see through. We take out the particle, we take out the mud, we take out the particle on the bottom of the water bottle, so that it can become pure completely, like that one. So that inside. So the inside, like for example, only when we calm our mind, we can see things through easily. If we have a lot of confusion, if we have a lot of thinking, there's no way for us to see through. Let's say if someone had the habit of eating donut in the morning, for example, if we calm our mind out, right? If that person calm their mind out, they can see, wow, if they eat too much donut, a lot of sugar
Yeah.
levels in their body. Otherwise, they will not care much. So when they calm their mind out, that's the first step, samadhi. It's just samatha, the first step to calm the mind out. And when they see it through, oh, okay, donut has so much sugar there, so it's just maybe harmful or toxic to the body. So because of that insight, they would not consume anymore.
Well, I feel like, so with the shamatha, it makes it so when you, or for me, when I do insight insight practice, of course, the shamanism makes it easier for me to hold my attention, like, and then see the coming and going of all of that, but you can't really see the coming and the going until you can really hold that, or identify that. You become more identified with this awareness versus the things that are arising in your awareness. And then, so once you have that concentration, once you get into the vipassana or the insight, you're identified with just the awareness, that's still, and then you can carefully see the way all of it comes and goes, or the way all of it's created and destroyed, or the fluctuation. But you can't do that unless you're focused and identified with something that's not these mental fluctuations.
Yeah. It takes a lot of effort, right, to concentrate, to see true. We need to have kind of calmness and concentration. Otherwise, there's no way. Like, for example, if we driving and we talking, we're driving and we even eating, right? We will not pay attention much about driving, especially texting. This is dangerous. That's why we have to do one thing at a time.
Mindfulness practice is so prevalent throughout Buddhism that one could even say it is characteristic of Buddhist culture as a whole. Such practices need not be introspective. Zen monks, for example, practice both silent meditation and group recitation of sutras in which their collective voice is used to focus the mind.
Yeah. Yes,
Zen monks. Chanting. Do you guys do chanting here?
Yeah, we do the chanting. Yeah.
I've only heard chanting in English once, and that was on Buddha's birthday.
Oh, that's all.
It's always in, I've only ever heard it in Vietnamese, the chanting.
Yeah, she come and
I practice, and it takes a lot of concentration because I do not speak Vietnamese. I mean, I do, I'm able to understand quite a bit, but I don't really have a grasp of the language. So yeah, even just to follow along, because Vietnamese doesn't look like what we think it sounds, that takes a whole lot. And of course, I think I've done it for more than a year or so now. But it's still, if I blink too fast or I start wandering, especially if it's a sutra or something I've not done before, it's easy to get lost. Or also, like when he taught us that's the chant, so you walk at a certain pace, and then you have to ring the bell at a certain time, and you chant. You can't really even breathe wrong or think like, oh, what's that? Or you've missed your bell, or
Yeah, Sam, he used to have Saturday chanting here, but since he's sick, hopefully he will be back soon.
Yeah,
so
he chants.
every Saturday morning, but we change the schedule. So tomorrow you come tomorrow for sitting?
No, tomorrow I'm gonna take Monte Chandama to the Dalai Lama's birthday celebration.
I see.
I
see. Yeah. After meeting, I was and I want to create a kind of sitting pattern for at least 3 hours on Saturday.
Yeah.
For chanting?
No, the meditation is like today, but I stand for three sessions. From 8 to 11, but tomorrow shorten. I will have meeting with you between 8 and 9. So after that we do the meditation. Yeah, and after that.
Yeah, I would love to do that, but I've got.
That's okay. So next Saturday, that's okay too. Yeah, so that we can build up our strength of concentration. And again, I used to tell my student, if you study Buddhism without practicing meditation, you will not understand much about Buddhism. It's like a student, if they pass the permit, but if they don't take the license, I mean the driving test, they don't know how to drive the car. They just know it really. That's all. So there is Buddhism. Buddhism requires the practice, to understand the essential meanings of the teaching. And of course, besides meditation, we do the rupa recitation, the sutra and mantra too. I recite mantra every morning. There's one way of concentration. You know why? When we do this, when we do the recitation of mantra, you know why?
I mean, well, anytime you repeat something over and over and over, it becomes default in your mind, the more you do something. So if I'm just gonna make one up. I love the Buddha, just whatever, or love. That when you're not chanting that, one of the first things, or for me, like when I do the vows, I do compassion, liberation, wisdom. And I've done so much compassion, liberation, wisdom that it's almost like a default noise in my head. That when something happens or something, one of the first thing that, because I've not only put it through my body, but one of the first thing is compassion, wisdom, liberation. It's the first thing that comes. So of course, the more you repeat anything, the more second nature or first nature it becomes.
And Stephen, you know why? Why do we design certain type of mantra in our Buddhist tradition?
It's just basically, I believe, to get your mind, isn't it to calm your mind down and to concentrate on the meaning, but also at the same time, that's great. Like I've attended most in an unlocked temple here, like the Vietnamese version when we're chanting and all that. But at the same time, I'm thinking I like what we're doing here with your Zoom class here is we're diving more. You're explaining a little bit more as to pretty much directing your mind into not just a single point, like meditation, for example, we learn about that, but at the same time, just understanding the awareness of all what's causing us, like the attaching to all the thing that's out in the real world. What I'm thinking about, what I'm trying to say is like, even though you're going through this, there's still a lot of people who you can understand it briefly at a general sense, but they're not understanding how to correctly apply it to get them to be true happiness. I'm hoping that makes sense, because even you going through that, you still go through the same chaos of the normal living world. They're always going to be worried. And sadly, I have one personal, someone who I know very, very closely, who is having a difficulty in understanding that, yes, everything can be overcome. Everything is always seems to be hard. You're always worrying about, oh, we're gonna survive, is this enough for us to carry on? But you have to decide what is enough. And what I mean is just financial freedom as an example. You have to make that decision because, you're understanding all this, but at the same time, you always worry about, oh, am I financially, enough? The answer is yes. You have to understand and realize that, yes, we are financially stable. So that's, is what my curiosity is. A lot of people, you're going to have to learn much more, and I'm still going to learn for the rest of my life, and hopefully I will retain all this, whatever I'm learning, and truly retain it.
So Nina, you know why we decide the mantra? What mantra is the word, like the password. It has the meanings, but several meanings, but the translator, they would not translate the word. For example, the word Om Mani Padme Hum has several meanings. So if they translate in one meaning, it would lose others. So that's why they just keep that, what they call transliteration.
So is a mantra a single word or
It probably is
a phrase?
probably one single word or most of the time a sentence, the praise, or even the whole whole books, whole
Well,
chapter, whole paragraphs.
This tradition, they repeat, I don't say it very well, Namo Aidafa. So as a desire and not a desire, but a will to be reborn in the pure. So like, right, so if you practice that, saying that mantra enough and calling that Buddha to you enough, that right in your time of death, you are thinking of the Pure Land, which will hopefully you will be reborn in the Pure Land, which it's much easier to be born.
Yeah, it's in a tradition. This is one story. It's a funny story. So one monk is back in Vietnam. One monk somehow he stopped by at a lay person, and then he met a old lady. And after that tradition, after she offered the food to the monk, and the monk taught her how to recite Mani Make Me Home. You know what heard about that? Mani Brought Me Home. That's a pretty popular one.
It doesn't sound like I thought it would sound. I've never heard anyone say
Mani
it.
Brought Me Home. Yeah.
I've
Anyway,
seen it.
yeah. So the monk taught her to recite, and he said, well, each time you recite, you put a pepper, a little rock into the bottle. So to see one day, 1 month, how many little rock or how many pebble you have in that bottle. So she did, and because she's so sincere that eventually, whenever she tried to recite that mantra, that little rock or pebble would jump into the bottle by themselves without using the hand, to put them into. That because the mind. She used the mind because she's so concentrated. She used the mind somehow while she was reciting that mantra, and the drop jump into that bottle.
So when you recite your mantra, how long do you do it?
Depend.
How long it takes to.
Depend.
108 times.
Yeah. So anyway,
It's
so
1997 times.
yeah. So I have not finished that story yet. So what happened then? The second monk, after that, I mean that after she recited that mantra fluently and constantly, and so second monk stopped by at her house, and of course she offered the food to the monk. That's the tradition, and he also want to teach her something in return. But he heard how she recited that mantra, Om Mani Padme Me Hum, in her what they call local tongue. It's dialect. So the second one said, "Oh no, that's not that way. That's not sound right. You need to decide this way." So he led her to decide in different tongue. And what happened then? The rock could not jump anymore because her mind is confused. You understand that? So I tell you this story because I want to illustrate that here. In Buddhist view, when we talk about the mantra, whether it's spoken by Buddha, Bodhisattva, or whoever, it has some kind of power, spiritual power. Like if someone give you the password, a password to log in your bank account, whichever account you have on the net and so forth, or even at the bank. So they're so powerful, it may change your own karma too. That's the first function of the Buddhist mantra. The second function is that usually, let's say, if I see anything surrounding me, anything that here, for example, the mouse, when I see this, I would not keep my mind at peace. I would analyze this. Oh, okay, logi. Okay, what's mean? Oh, made up by plastic. So basically, whenever I move my mind around or eyes around, I would analyze actively, analyze things. I mean, that I have a lot of thinking. I'm thinking about that stuff. I'm analyze that stuff. So my mind is not calm. My mind always in active mode. Make sense? But when we recite the mantra, we reverse the pattern. Yes, the mantra has so many meanings, but they translate, they would not translate every one of them, because if they translate one meaning, they lost other. That's why they keep the word, especially from the Sanskrit one, Om Mani Padme Hum and so forth. So that's why when we recite that mantra, we don't think anymore. We reverse the pattern of non-thinking. Make sense now?
I heard a really beautiful way, he was a bhakti yogi, and they recite chanting usually different names of God. And what he said is, and I think this goes way back, that so every time you recite that, like he was using Ram, so you'll see Hindu people going Ram. So you imagine those mud huts in the jungle. And these are these like karmic seeds every time you say the mantra. And in these like jungle huts that are made of mud, the rain comes and starts washing them down. And that these karmic seeds eventually start growing into trees, right? That hut is the self. The more you plant these karmic seeds into your house, that eventually breaks open the notion of self.
Oh, okay.
That it's something that you plant there and it grows, and eventually the whole reason for it to grow is so that you understand non-self or non-duality. Well, for them it's non-duality. But I thought that was a beautiful way to explain it, that you just keep and eventually the rains and everything will come and those seeds will grow and destroy that thing which is the self that causes the pain and suffering.
Yeah, so again, this is the same way. Decide Buddha name, decide the mantra in Buddhist view, revert the pattern of thinking, so that we will not have the type of thinking trigger. We have a lot of stimulation of our thought whenever we move our mind around, whenever we walk around and so forth. So that's why the more we recite the mantra, it is supposed to calm the mind, because we don't think much, because it reverses the pattern. It's similar way of sitting meditation. Sitting meditation to calm the mind. But instead of sitting meditation, we recite the mantra, recite the Buddha name, so that we can focus on one, instead of so many things moving around our mind.
Seems like it would be very soothing.
Very
soothing.
Yeah.
The chanting.
Yeah.
I like to listen to it. I don't know what anyone's saying.
All
but
right.
It's, if I put on my earphones and I'll listen. I used to get the Tibetan Center when they chant.
They chant the Om Mani Padme Hum.
Yeah.
That's very popular.
Yeah,
These bracelets or these necklaces, those are for reciting the mantras, for counting. So usually you take them in a series of 108, and then you turn it clockwise. You're supposed to turn this clockwise, and that's why you have that to mark where you are. And
right here.
So you do
Right
that
here.
X amount of times.
yeah, you do the mantra 108 times.
Yeah, or you can turn on. It's pretty convenient now. You can go to YouTube. Yeah, sorry, it's just you can go to YouTube and listen. Focus. How is that?
Puts me in a trance.
Yeah.
Makes me feel hypnotized.
Not
Very
hypnotize, calm your mind down.
Not hypnotized, but a trance, I think would be appropriate.
That's one way to calm the mind down. Yeah, in Buddhism, there's many ways to
Because
calm the
sometimes
mind.
when I'm meditating, even my tongue is pushing.
Oh,
You
really?
know, my
Don't pay
mind is
attention.
pushing, my tongue is pushing, my legs are pushing, I'm like, everything is, it's okay, it's just
Uh-huh.
chill out.
Eventually, at first you can feel that eventually it will come naturally if you don't pay attention on them.
Yeah, I have moments
Oh.
that are relief,
Mhm.
but I just have to keep doing it.
It's something we just gotta keep doing,
Just gotta keep doing
it, keep
Yeah.
doing it.
Mhm.
And don't ever think you're kind of like exercise or going to the gym.
Yeah.
You can't
Mhm.
ever
You build
plan-
up
you
this
can't ever
friend.
plan to stop. There is at no point in your life where not exercising is a good idea. I mean, you know, as a general lifestyle,
Yeah,
so same thing with meditation. That's your mind exercise. You know, then you gotta do the body exercise. As soon as you let that go. Same,
We will
same,
die.
same like the body.
Mhm. Yeah, and Stephen, you heard about this type of mantra and recitation before?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's just the common mind.
And it's soothing.
But then-
It is so soothing.
Yeah,
So
you can listen. Nowadays, it's convenient. You can turn on the YouTube and so forth. All right. So anyway, so it's time up. Let us start.